Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to yet another session in our Weekend with Wisdom series. And in this weekend, we are going to talk, discuss, and contemplate on Vivekachoodamani. And to take us through and guide us, we have Swami Anukoolananda ji. Hari Om Swamiji, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining us. Welcome. And before I take an opportunity and introduce Swamiji, I would like to start with an invocation. Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunattu सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Swami Anukoolananda ji was tutored in spirituality in Chinmaya mission by reputed scholars of Vedanta. Swamiji was bestowed Brahmacharya Diksha on 15th August 2000 and Sannyas Diksha on Shivratri in 2013. Taking keen interest in youth empowerment, Swamiji serves as the Director, South Zone for the All India Chinmaya Yuva Kendra. Swamiji is now serving as the Resident Director at the Chinmaya International Residential School at Coimbatore, which has been adjudged the best residential school in Tamil Nadu and the second best residential school all over India for the year by the Education World magazine. Swamiji also serves extensively in the field of education training. Swamiji is part of the board of the Chinmaya Education Cell that governs the running of its 103 Chinmaya educational institutions. Swamiji also serves on the board of management of the newly inaugurated Chinmaya Vishwavidyapita. Applying Vedanta to effectively enhance management practices, Swamiji has made many presentations in the areas of Indian ethos in management. Swamiji has been invited for lectures on Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Indian solutions to personal and corporate challenges at many institutions. Swamiji's vision is to see India as a nation full of dynamic youngsters, empowered with the knowledge and practice of Indian culture, serving the nation and leading the world on a path to true freedom and eternal happiness. So over these 4-session series, we will be delving deeper into Vivekachoodamani. And in first session, we will be learning more about the Panchakosha Viveka. Without further ado, I invite Swamiji to take over this session. Over to you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Pranatosmyam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Hari Om to all of you who have assembled here for this 4-session Indika Moksha talk. Vedas give us two important concepts or two important guidelines for our life. While we live as humans in this world, it is important for us to live well in the material life, in the normal life, and therefore dharma, the law of living, is taught to us. But man is capable of much more, and the highest possibility of man is Atma Sakshatkara, or realization itself. Freedom from limitations, freedom from bondage, freedom from false identification, and realizing our true identity. That is possible to mankind. So that science is called Moksha Shastra. So the Vedas give us both Dharma and Moksha. The end portion of the Vedas is called Vedanta. When we say end, it does not mean the physical end of the Vedas, but it means the culmination of thought in the Vedas, that is called Vedanta. The body of text that deals with this highest knowledge is called the Upanishads. Numerous Upanishads are present in the Vedas, but what makes them unique is the presence of the Mahavakyas in those Upanishads. So every Upanishad has a Mahavakya which explains the concept of Brahma, Atma, Aikya. That this individual I that I am experiencing is in reality nothing other than that Brahman which is the Supreme. In the four Vedas, very, very famously, the Mahavakyas have been taken as I am Atma Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, etc. To explain this knowledge to a beginner in Vedanta is very, very difficult. The Upanishads are given to the highest level of seekers. So, in order to initiate even a beginner into this great knowledge, we have what is called introductory texts. So those are called Prakarana Granthas. Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya Ji is called very reverentially as Bhagavan Bhashyakara. While Bhagavan Vedavyas Ji compiled the entire Vedas, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya Ji was one who wrote commentaries on the Upanishads, who wrote commentaries on the Brahma Sutra, and he wrote the commentary on the Bhagavad Gita and made this knowledge available to us so that we can read and understand the explanation of the highest Upanishads. So Bhagavan is called Bhagavan Bhashyakara. Not only did he write commentaries on the Upanishads, Bhagavan also wrote introductory texts, starting with the Tattvabodha, and then Bhagavan wrote this amazing compendium of 585 verses called the Vivekachoodamani. Chudamani itself means the crest jewel, which is worn on the head to adorn a person. So this Vivekachoodamani is the crest jewel of Viveka, of the power to discriminate, the power to discern the false from the truth. So thus Vivekachoodamani is not a text which talks about this knowledge in very concise terms like the Upanishads. The Vivekachoodamani is an elaboration of the entire idea so that each concept is taken and explained in detail so that even the beginners of knowledge will have sufficient content to approach these questions and ruminate upon this in so many different ways. So thus Vivekachoodamani is a very great blessing to us. And because Bhagavan did not make it concise, he takes the liberty to engage in pristine poetry. He takes the liberty to engage even a little bit of humor. He doesn't miss out also on the chance to criticize wrong and faulty thinking. But Bhagavan, assuming both the role of the guru as well as the role of the student in the Vivekachoodamani, brings out all these ideas in most amazing ways. Every text in Indian scriptures start with an invocation verse. And the invocation is serving two purposes. One is it invokes the grace of Bhagavan. Second, it also talks about the content of the text. And more importantly, it acknowledges the lineage of the gurus beginning from Bhagavan. That this knowledge is not my creation. This knowledge is not the author's creation. This knowledge is eternal and it has been given to us by the Guru Parampara. So the discussion of Vivekachoodamani cannot begin without the invocation verse. So let us start straight away with the invocation verse itself. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. So Bhagavan says, Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. I salute the great master. Who is that great master? It is Govindam. Govinda Bhagavat Pada. Acharya is mentioned in this particular invocation. So who is this Govinda Bhagavat Pada Acharya? Who is my Guru? He is none other than the Supreme God, Supreme Atman itself. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam. That Brahman or the Atman is that which is Gocharam, which can be known through what? Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta, which has been described by the philosophy of Vedanta. Gocharam, but yet it is Agocharam. How is it Agocharam? The Atma or the Self is not available as an entity, as a Padartha, or as an object of our senses. Because the seer cannot be the seen. The subject cannot be the object of perception. So the subject is the Atma, and therefore the subject always is the Atma, and the subject does not become an object of perception. I think, and I am not that which is thought, and therefore I am Agocharam. So that Supreme Brahman, which is the Atman itself, that entity which is beyond perception, is pointed out and revealed to me by the great Shastras and explained to me so lovingly by my teacher Govinda Bhagavat Pada. And here in the Vivekachoodamani, This is what is the subject which is being revealed by this beautiful text. So we salute Bhagavan as this text has begun. In order to inspire the students to learn this, Bhagavan says about the uniqueness and the great blessing that the student of this knowledge has. Bhagavan says this knowledge will manifest only in a person if the person has the punya of 100 crore lives. Shatajanma koti sukritaihi punyer vina na labhyate. He says that even to get a guru, Bhagavan says, durlabham prayamevaitat. Daivanugraha hetukam manushyatvam mumukshutvam mahapurusha samshrayah. He says that three things in life are very difficult to get. One is to be born as a human is very rare. Sometimes we think there is so much human population. How is it rare? But imagine the 84 lakh species, and in each species the number of beings in them. Compared to that, human birth is the rarest of the rarest of the rarest. And that we have got. But even among human beings, to get the desire for liberation is still rarer. Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Among thousands of people, one rare one even attempts to realize me. And among those thousands of people who try to realize me, one rare one truly attains me in this birth. But Bhagavan in another place says, Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Of course, the one who seeks me will not perish. Yet, the one who knows me in reality will be a rare one. So to have even the desire to know Bhagavan, even the desire to know the Atma is very, very rare. So, Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, very rare. And for a person who has desire for this knowledge, to gain the association with a true master, with a guru who has known this truth is very, very rare. As it is said, realized masters are themselves few. Or realized people are themselves few. And among those realized people, someone ready to teach me and to guide me on this path is very rare. And among those people who are very rare, for me to get to meet such a great master is very rare. So therefore it is said, it is only by the result of Bhagavan, it is only by the blessing of Bhagavan that a person gets even the opportunity to know this knowledge. So Bhagavan continues to warn somebody who has already got this opportunity. He says, having got the birth as a man and having got this amazing knowledge, amazing insight to seek this truth. Yet, if a person does not use this opportunity properly, so then that person is doing nothing but committing suicide only. So thus, to waste this human life without realizing the truth, Bhagavan, according to Bhagavan says it is a suicide. Why? Next time, when will a person get human birth? Nobody knows. So in this birth, one should realize this is the inspiration and the warning that Bhagavan gives us right at the beginning of Vivekachoodamani. So now, the whole discussion in the Vivekachoodamani is about bandha and about moksha. The student who has learned the shastras, all other shastras, and the student has come face to face with the limitations that the world throws at him. He knows whatever he gets in life, the joy, the happiness that he gets is limited. And without the sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, which is complete, how long can a person live with bits and scraps of happiness and happy experiences? In fact, to gain those bits and scraps of happiness, one goes through pain. And then, once the experience of happiness is over, there is regret as well, saying what I wanted went away. And again, the whole cycle starts. How long do I have to live like this? Is there a way out? What is this life that I have to go through sorrows and then gain a little bit of joy and then gain a little bit of happiness? Second, I am constantly pursued by the fear of death. Fear constantly pursues me. Can I live fearless? Can I overcome death? Ultimately, if everything is ending in death, what is the meaning of life? With all these questions and all these confusions, not being able to decipher the meaning of life, that student reaches the Guru. And the Guru explains, oh student, many have asked these questions and they have approached the Gurus like you are approaching. And don't worry, for the path which those Mahatmas took, and they reached that same path, you will also be able to tread and you will also realize the truth. So the Guru, in this beautiful verse, 47th verse, the Guru explains what is the problem and what is the solution to the problem. So he says, Ajnana yogat paramatmanastava anatma bandhas tata eva samsritihi tayor vivekodita bodhavannihi ajnana karyam pradahet samulam. So Bhagavan says, what is the problem that you are facing? He says, anatma bandha tataha eva samsritihi. You are bound to what you are not. Atma means I. Anatma means what is not I. So you are today bound. You are tied down to. You are under the spell of anatma. And that is the problem that all transmigration and samsara is affecting you. But why did this happen? How did this happen? I did not want to identify with what I am not. So Bhagavan gives why this happened. He says, Ajnana Yogat, because of ignorance, because of Maya. You who are the Paramatma, you are not the ego, you are not the Ahankara, you are the Paramatma. But you, the Paramatma, for whatever reason, being deluded by Ajnana, have come to identify yourself as what you are not. And therefore, what is the solution? The solution is Tayor Vivekachoodamani Bodhavannihi. Light up in yourself the fire of discrimination, the fire of Viveka between Atma and Anatma. Tayor Vivekaha. And when this knowledge rises in you, Ajnana Karyam, the effects of ignorance, which is false identity, Pradahet Samulam. What happens? This fire of knowledge will burn away ignorance and its effects. And thus you will be freed from bondage, you will attain moksha. Following this, the student asks 7 pertinent questions. And these 7 pertinent questions form the framework of the entire 585 verses of the Vivekachoodamani. So in the 49th verse, the student asks, Bhagavan, tell me, first question, Ko Nama Bandha. What is called bondage? Because as Swami Chinmayanji once quipped, he said, do you know what the problem is? The problem is people do not know what the problem is. When I do not know that I am in bondage, why will I even put an effort to free myself? We have come to terms with bondage. That bondage seems quite comfortable to us. We have somehow fallen in romance with the limited, with the bondage. And for such a person to become free is impossible. And for a person who wants to free themselves, this bondage is so subtle. And this bondage has pervaded every aspect of my life that I am unable to even recognize this is bondage or not. So the first question is, what is bondage? Ko nama bandha. Katham esha agata. How did it come? From where did it come? Katham pratishtha. How does it continue? In what ways does it become stronger and stronger and stronger in me? When we look at this, something very interesting is how the world today is undergoing its phenomena of addictions. It's so interesting to note addictions start with the hope of getting happiness, And addiction tempts us by giving us a sense of happiness first and then binds us. And once it binds us, the reality of the addiction comes up. And yet, even facing the terrible realities of addiction, I am unable to let go of it, because a life without the addiction becomes more painful than the pain of addiction. The greatest addiction that has happened are not drugs of the present, but the first addiction that happened is of Maya. And promising us with a sense of joy, with a sense of security, with a sense of happiness, Maya has caught us into identifying ourselves as the limited individual ego. And it keeps us here by giving us little packets of joy to keep our hope that I can be happy alive. But this Maya holds us with its tentacles of addiction. And this addiction to samsara, how does it become strong? Katham pratishta? And the student asks, Katham vimoksha? How can I become free from this addiction? How can I become free from this samsara? How can I become free from this bondage? Ko asau anatma. What is this anatma? And parama kaha atma. What is the supreme self that you're talking about? How do I recognize it? I don't even know who I am. Paramak atma tayor vivekaha katametad uchyatam. Tayor vivekaha. How do I discern the difference between both so that I can understand who I truly am? So this is the verse with which the Vivekachoodamani truly begins. So Bhagavan, through the words of that Guru, actually appreciates the student. And the 67th verse, he says, "O student, you are intelligent because you have asked an intelligent question." And he gives us there what are the signs of an intelligent question. He says, Yatvaya adhyatkrita prashnaha variyan shastravittamaha. You are shastravit. It is very clear that you are very knowledgeable. How? By the questions that you ask itself, that is very clear. Why? Your question is sutra prayaha. Your question is short, in the sense, to the point. Sometimes people ask questions and the question goes on for 15 minutes. And finally the speaker has to ask, okay, so what is your question? But here, a good question is one who asks a question straight to the point and brief. So sutra means brief. Sutra prayaha, and yet it is niguda atma. It is very deep. The question itself is so profound. And the answer that can come out of it is so amazing and so profound. Sometimes we ask such unintelligent questions, unnecessary questions. Someone is drinking tea, you go and ask them, "Sir, what are you doing?" Isn't that very obvious? That's so clear what you're doing, right? the questions we ask should reveal great knowledge. So which means even to ask a question, we should be at least little knowledgeable. So a question born out of personal research and born out of a quest to know, that is very, very important. So when we are on a sincere quest, the best questions come out of us. So here the teacher is telling, your question is very profound. And the answer cannot be found very commonly everywhere. So therefore it is great. So first it is brief. Second, it is Niguda Atma. It is very profound. Third, Jnatavyascha Mumukshubhihi. This is what is to be known by those who want to attain the absolute. So therefore, it is very, very amazing. After congratulating the student, now the teacher enters serious business and he says, I am not going to give you a quick fix solution. Bhagavan dedicates almost 6-7 verses or 10 verses to tell this knowledge can be known only and only by self-effort. And this knowledge is such that you have to experience it by yourself. Spirituality in Hinduism is direct experience. It is not you say, I believe, finished. It is I seek, you guide, I realize it for myself. So the truth in Hinduism, the truth of the Vedas has the perfect grounding of repeated declarations of generations of masters having gone through that path, having realized the truth, have again and again and again declared this is the truth. And what the Vedas have spoken of as the truth is what I have directly experienced. And therefore, the masters who have walked the path have become the pramanas, have become the authorities in the past and in the present for the Vedas to be so true, to be the truth. And therefore, the master here says, I can show you the path. It is for you to walk the path. He gives some interesting examples. He says, for a father who is in loan, who is in debt, the sons can be the ones who will free the father from the debt. So I am in debt, my sons can free me from the debt, possible. But self-knowledge, you yourself have to get. Another example Bhagavan takes, if you're carrying a load on your back, you're carrying a big sack on your back, somebody else can relieve you of that bhara, of that weight, somebody can relieve you. But the load of samsara that you're carrying, you yourself have to drop it. Nobody else can do it. So Bhagavan says here, the third example he gives is of Aushadha. He brings a little bit of humor also here. He says two things. The person who is unwell has to take the medicine and the pathya, has to eat what is to be eaten, has to refrain from what is not to be taken. And this has to be done by the patient and the patient alone. the medicine is a little bitter. Can my assistant drink it instead of me? That's not possible. The one who has the disease has to take the medicine. So too, the disease of ajnana, the disease of false knowledge can be removed only if I directly experience the truth. Nobody else can do it. And second, Bhagavan uses the same example to say something more. He says, you have the medicine with you, or the medicine has been prescribed to you. By repeating the name of the medicine 1,000 times, the effect of medicine doesn't come to you. A person has a headache, let us say, and he chants the name of the medicine. Probably his headache may increase. Only when that person takes in that medicine and assimilates it can the medicine have the effect. So Bhagavan says that self-knowledge can be realized only by personal effort. He gives another example. He says there is a man who has a very beautiful veena. Beautiful veena he has. And he also plays the veena very well. Beautifully he plays the veena. Bhagavan says, yes, that will be good for the entertainment of other people, but that will not help this man become the king of the country. If this person has to become the king of the country, this person has to do what it takes to conquer the nation and to occupy the throne. So too, having a beautiful body or having amazing talents will not help the student realize the truth. Only that person who has overcome bondage, who has fought this bondage, only that person can attain this absolute truth. So that's Bhagavan giving guarantee for what the student asks. Tell the student that it is your responsibility to realize the truth. So the question of what is Atma and what is not Atma, which is the basis of the discussions of the Vivekachoodamani. So right in the beginning, Bhagavan explains what is not the Atma. He says, Dehendriya, Prana, Mano, Adayaha, Sarve Vikaraha, Vishaya, Sukhadayaha, Vyomadi Bhutani, Akhilam cha Vishvam, Avyakta Paryantam, Idam Hi Anatma. Idam Hi Anatma. What is Anatma? Whatever you can point out as Idam. Idam Hi Anatma. Whatever you can point out as this, that is Anatma. Let's say we have a watch. Can you point out to the watch as this? Yes. So this is not you. We are speaking and you have a computer or a phone in front of you. Can you point out to that phone or computer and say this? Yes. I say this phone, this computer. Then it is not you. The dress that we are wearing, we say this dress or we say my dress. So the dress is not you. It is Anatma. Go to the next level, the body. Do we say my body, my hand, my eyes, my nose? So which means they belong to me, and what belongs to me is not me. It is Anatma. So too, the thoughts also are my thoughts. No doubt it seems to affect me in different ways. But the concept of discrimination is what is mine is not I. I am different, mine is different. So thus, Bhagavan says here, Dehendriya Prano Prana Manohamadayaha. Deha, the body, the Indriyas, the five senses of perception, the five senses of action, Aham, the ego, etc. Sarve Vikaraha, and there many modifications. Today, what I describe as I is not what I described as I 10 years before. My description of myself has changed. Today morning, my mental condition is different. Yesterday evening, my mental condition was different. Vikaraha. Few years back, my body was very fit and able. Today, my body is not of that condition. Body also changes. Sarve vikara, all the modifications of all of these. And Vishaya, Sukhadaya, all the objects and all the emotions. I am sad, I am happy, I am angry. Every emotion that we experience comes as thought. And something very amazing is no emotion stays. Imagine if somebody by nature was sadness. They cannot be anything else then. What changes is not me. I am there and these come, stay and go away. So they are not me. Sukhadayaha are not me. In the same way, Vyomadi Bhutani, the five elements. And everything that's modification of five elements. None of them are me. Vyomadi Bhutani, Akhilam Cha Vishwam, this entire universe. Starting from the unmanifest Prakriti to this Sthula body, to this gross body, none of them are this Atma. So Maya Karyam Sarvam Mahadadi Deha Paryantam Asad Idam. All of these belong to the category of Asat. What is Asat? We understand as the opposite of Sat. So now we have to ask what is Sat. Sat, Bhagavan Bhashyakara in the commentary on Bhagavad Gita, he gave the definition of what is Sat. He says, Yad Vishaya Buddhihi na vyabicharati tat Sat. Yad Vishaya Buddhihi vyabicharati tad Asat. Buddhihi here means understanding. Vyabhicharati means changes. Na vyabhicharati means does not change. That about which the understanding never changes. That is Sat. That about which the understanding keeps changing, that is Asat. So when this definition is taken, then what happens is only Brahman or the Supreme Para Atma fits the definition of Sat. It was there in the past. It is there in the present. It will be there in the future as it is. This body was not there before the birth. This body is there now. This body will not be in the future. This mind was not there 10 years before. It was different. So if I or you were to describe the mind 10 years before and 10 years now, the understanding has changed. So too, the intellect, the understanding has changed. Yad vishaya buddhihi vyabhicharati. That about which the understanding changes, that is asat. That about which understanding never changes, that is sat. I am. That is ever constant. Existence is ever constant. The form of existence changes, but existence is. For example, in the life cycle of a tree, first is the seed, then is the sampling, then is the plant, and then the small tree, and then you have the big tree, and then if the tree is used for wood, then it becomes wood, and if the wood is used for furniture, it becomes furniture, and the furniture, once it is falls into repair, and then it becomes wood again, and probably it's burned, and then it becomes ashes. Every moment we see the seed exists, the sapling exists, the sprout exists, the sapling exists, the plant exists, the tree exists, the wood exists, the furniture exists. Again, the wooden plants exist, then the ash exists. Existence never changes. But the forms change. The forms are asat. Existence is sat. So that existence, that is what is pointed out as the supreme. Other than that, everything else is maya. Maya karyamidam sarvam mahadadi deha paryantam. Asad idam, it is asat, and it is anatma tattvam. It is not of the nature of the Atma. So which means the Atma is Sat. and anything other than the Atma is Asat. So just as we described the life cycle of the tree, when I was small, I existed. When I was born, when I grew up, I existed. When I became a youth, I exist. When I become an old man, I exist. And we know of rebirths also. So before the birth of the body, I existed. After the death of this body, also I will exist. So this I who is constantly present, that I, the Atma, the soul, that I is Sat. So therefore, Asadidam, Anatma Tattvam, whatever is other than this I is Anatma Tattvam Viddhitvam. Know it. Maruchika Kalpakam, Maruchika Kalpakam. Whatever is seen and whatever you imagine to be Sat outside is only an appearance of Sat. It is not truly Sat. It is like the mirage waters, which looks like water, but really it is not water. So too, whatever we see in this world, we know is temporary, and even whatever we imagine to be permanent, truly is not permanent. So thus what is real, that is called Sat. So what is that Atma? You described what is Anatma. So what is this Atma? So Bhagavan says, Eshontara Purusha Puranaha Nirantara Khanda Sukhanubhutihi Sadaika Rupaha Patibodhamatraha Yene Shita Vag Asavaha Charanti. This is verse number 131 in Vivekachoodamani. So Bhagavan says, what is this Atma? Eshaha Antaratma. It is that which is the innermost being of yourself. What it means is, it can be experienced directly as one's own innermost self. In the beautiful verse in Kaivalya Upanishad, na karmana na prajaya dhane tyage naike amratattva manusho parena nakam nihitam guhaya. It says it is parena nakam. It is greater than even the heavens. And even though it is greater than the heavens, nihitam guhayam. Guha, in the cave of your heart, it is nihitam. Parenanakam nihitam guhayam. So too, eshaha antaratma. Purushaha, it is that which is the enlivening factor in this entire personality colossal. What is it that is present by which everything is enlivened? In fact, Gurudev used to say, Swami Chinmayananda used to say, the body is nothing but the composition of minerals, calcium, carbon, phosphorus. Calcium, carbon, phosphorus is present everywhere. And when put together, how does this calcium, carbon, phosphorus act? How does it function? That is because of the presence of this Purusha. Eshantaratma Purusha Puranaha. It is ancient Purana. And this word Purana itself is very beautiful. Pura Api Nava. It is ancient and yet it is ever fresh. It never decays. And Nirantara Akhanda Sukhanubhuti. It is that which is direct, unbroken experience of bliss. The joys that we experience are thrills of thought. It comes and it goes. But the Atma Sukha is Nirantara and broken. Atma Sukha Sadaika Rupaha. It is always Ekarupaha. It is always that which never changes. And Pratibodhamatraha. It is present in every thought. What is it? Because of which we are aware of every thought that comes into our mind. That consciousness which enlivens every thought into life, that consciousness is the Atma. Pratibodhamatre yena ishita vag asavaha charanti. And it is governed, it is enlivened by this life, by this Atma, that vag, speech. Asavaha, asavaha means our pranas. Charanti, charanti, they all function. That is the Atma. So this Atma is Prakriti Vikriti Binnaha. It is other than this Prakriti and its modifications. It is Shuddha Bodha Swarupaha. It is the nature of pure consciousness. Who is that? It is I. Many times we need to be reminded that the word Atma should be translated as I. Otherwise, after studying a lot about the Atma, people may ask the question, I studied about Atma. The entire teaching was about us. I, the Atma, am consciousness. So, Shuddha Bodha Swarupaha, Tad Asad Yadidam is Asesham. It is beyond the Sat and the Asad. Bhasayan Nirvisheshaha. And it enlightens. It gives light to everything. That is this Atma. So now the question comes, how do I discover this Atma? And what is it that I am identifying myself with at this moment? So that is where the understanding of Panchakosha and its Viveka comes in. So the Panchakosha Viveka is introduced in this beautiful text in the 141st verse. So Bhagavan says, Koshair Annamayadhyaihi Panchabihi Atmana Samvrito Bhati. He says there are these koshas. Kosha means sheath. It's not an ordinary cover. Sheath is that which fits in, which covers the content perfectly. So Annamayadi, the Pancha means 5, Panchakosha means those 5 sheets, starting with the Annamaya Kosha, which is described starting with the Annamaya Kosha. There is no start, there is no end. But in terms of grossness to subtlety, we can start with the body, Annamaya. Koshad Annamayadhyaihi Panchabihi Atma Samvritaha. The Atma as though is covered. And the Atma as though being covered, na bhati, it does not become available for clear experience. For example, the clouds cover the sun. This is the expression that we give. But think about it, the clouds are so small, the sun is so big. How can the clouds cover the sun? To cover something, the cover should be bigger than the content. Here, sun is the content, which is so much bigger, and the cover are the clouds, which are so small. So how is the sun covered? It is wrong to say the clouds are covering the sun. Why? Actually, what is happening is the clouds are covering my vision. Sun is always there, but my vision is being covered by the sun. So too, the Atma is always there, and the Atma shines always. Yet, I am unable to experience the Atma, experience my true nature, because of the covering of the Panchakoshas. Atma na samrito bhati. Atma seems to be covered, it does not shine, as though Nija Shakti samutpannaihi shaiva ala patalaihi iva ambuvapistam. Bhagavan Bhashyakara gives a beautiful example. He says there is a lake, and the lake, from the power of the lake, the moss covers the surface of that lake. Where was the moss born from? From the waters. How does the moss derive its existence? From the water. So the moss existing itself proves that it is a water. And yet, it looks as if the moss is covering the water. So do Atma eva bhati. Atma alone is that which shines. And yet, because of the false identity, I am unable to see the Atma. So Bhagavan says, Atma anatma vivekaha kartavyaha bandha muktaye vidusha tenaiva anandi bhavati swam vijnaya satchidanandam. So thus, O student, know the difference between Atma and Anatma. Having understood the difference, you will come to realize the Atma, by which this bondage, by which this bandha will be broken, and you will realize yourself as the Sat, as the Chit, and as the Ananda. So this is where we have the introduction into the 5 koshas, and why we are not. These 5 koshas are very elaborately described. So that topic we will take up next, and we will stop for now. Over to Hari.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. And shall we take some questions now from the viewers?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, dear viewers,
If I can
I'm
answer, I will answer.
yeah requesting all of you to kindly post your questions in the Q&A box, and as they come, I shall relay them to Swamiji. Swamiji, as the questions come, I have some questions to ask. So the invocation, actually, I remember in Tattva Bodha also, Shankaracharya mentions about his guru. Govinda. He mentions that as well in Tattva Bodha. But isn't his own guru also called Govinda Bhagavad Pada?
Correct.
Uh,
So Govinda has three meanings here.
okay.
First, of course, Govinda, we know directly as Adi Shankaracharya's guru, Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya.
Yes.
Second, Govinda has the meaning of Ishvara. Govinda or Krishna or Mahavishnu, he is, so thus the word Govinda means the guru, the word Govinda means Bhagavan as well. Because ultimately Bhagavan has to bless us with the knowledge.
Yes.
So that is the second meaning. The third meaning of Govinda, go, also means the Vedas.
Wow.
So the one who is revealed through the Vedas is Govinda, which is Atman, which is Brahman.
Wow.
So all the three meanings come into this beautiful word called Govinda.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for sharing that. We have a question from one of the seekers. Can you explain Sat Asat Atma? If I'm, yeah.
Okay. Can you explain Sad, Asad, Atma?
Yes.
As we spoke just now, the definition of Sat is that about which our understanding doesn't change. There are very many definitions. Another definition is Trikaleshu Abhavat Tishtati. Bhava means change. Abhava means no change. Trikaleshu, in all the three periods of time, past, present, and future, it remains. Not only that it remains, but it remains as it is, without change. If something changes, then it is not that. It has changed to become something else. For example, milk earlier was milk, now it has become curd. It's a different form. So therefore, that does not qualify as Sat. But that which is Sat has to exist as the same in all three periods of time. And that which changes is called Asat, and therefore it is Anatma. So Sad is Atma, Asad is Anatma. So this becomes the tool for us to inquire what is Atma and what is Anatma. Atma is that which does not change. Of course, it is our direct experience. Everything in life changes. So that is not me. People change, objects change, businesses change, everything changes. Apply that to ourselves, body changes. So therefore, the body is not Sat. And because the body changes and it is not Sat, it is not Atma. Does the mind change? Of course it changes. So the mind is also asat. So then what is sat? That sat is indicated to us. It is for us to inquire and find who that sat is and experience that sat directly as our own innermost being. That sat is Atma.
Thank you. Thank you, Swamiji, for that explanation. And another seeker is asking how to see beyond the Panchakoshas. But I think you just have addressed that question, isn't it?
So right now,
Yeah.
what is important for us to know is what are the Panchakoshas, and then deliberate upon them as to why we are not that, so that we can go beyond and realize that.
Yes.
That will be the entire content of today evening's satsang that we will have at 5 o'clock. Yes.
Yes, Swamiji. And one last question before we conclude. What is Mumukshu's Lakshanam? How should one identify whether he's a seeker or not besides worldly affairs?
Okay. So even qualities of the student is described in the Vivekachoodamani very beautifully. And this question is so very important because Bhagavan says in the Vivekachoodamani that Mumukshutvam and Vairagya. Vairagya means dispassion towards the worldly pursuits. In fact, Bhagavan uses the word, instead of dispassion, he uses the word jigupsa. Jigupsa means disgust. What I am seeking becomes so inspiring to me, becomes so aspirational to me, that anything other than that is not worth it, is not valuable. I'm in a school, so I can give you examples from a school. A student who wants to gain 100 marks and is so inspired by it, for that student, even 99 is disgusting. It may be aspirational for everybody else. 99 may be aspirational for everybody else, but for that student, it's not worth it. Like that, the mumukshu is one who wants liberation, moksha. Moktum me icha mumukshutvam. So this person wants moksha so intensely that vairagya also becomes strong. So first thing is disinterestedness in pursuits which does not contribute to my liberation, to my pursuit of the truth. The example was given of a patient who has to get treated. If the patient has weaknesses for things which the patient should not take, and if the patient continues to take those prohibited things, it only means that the patient does not have so much liking for well-being. The patient feels it's okay to be unwell, but I want those other things. So the patient's love for well-being is little less. While the thrill of indulgence is so much more. Temporary joys seems to give greater thrills than permanent well-being. So too, for a seeker of liberation, the thrills of the world should not entangle that person. food is to be eaten so that it will serve me in practicing my sadhana. Entertainment and relationships should help me in practicing my sadhana. Study and worldly pursuits finally should help me tune my mind, elevate my mind towards sadhana and towards moksha. So such engagements and love for such engagements show clear sign of want for liberation. While love for other things shows love for the material and not for the spiritual. Yes.
So, Swamiji, can we say this is where the role of bhakti also comes into the picture?
Actually, even in the Vivekachoodamani, that is why Vivekachoodamani is 585 verses. In the pursuit of self-knowledge, Bhagavan says bhakti is important. And he defines bhakti also very differently. He does not talk of bhakti in the sense of devotional bhakti we have towards Bhagavan, as is popularly known. Bhakti is intense love. And in Vedanta, the Supreme is the Atma. So intense love to realize the Atma and continuous pursuit of that is called bhakti. Without love, nothing is possible. When I love something, I am ready to sacrifice something else. Thus, any pursuit, be it in the material world or be it in the spiritual world, is impossible without love. But when that love is turned towards lower things, then that love takes us to pursuits which takes us lower. But when that love is towards something higher, it takes us to pursuits which elevates us. So that becomes bhakti. So desha, for example, country. In relationship with the country, we call it desha bhakti. Serving the parents is considered great. It elevates us. It takes us beyond our ego. So it is called Matra Bhakti. Ishvara is higher, and therefore it is called Ishvara Bhakti. So Bhakti is extremely important. Without that love, one cannot sustain one's path.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Swamiji. One of the seekers is asking if it would be possible to share the exact verse numbers which we had discussed today.
Okay.
In this session.
Actually, I've noted down, I think I spoke from at least 30-40 verses here. So to give each number is not going to be easy. It's going to be more difficult. But if possible, in the next classes, I would mention what are the verses that we are taking more clearly.
Sure, sir.
Do that.
Sure, Swamiji. Thank you so much once again. And we will meet again at 5:30 p.m. 5:30 for our evening session to continue our discussion.
So it will be on Panchakosha Viveka. We'll take up the Panchakoshas and in the discussion. Tomorrow, the topic will be on Tattvamasi in the morning. And in the evening, we will take up the understanding of Prarabdha, karma of a saint and the signs of a realized master. That will be the topics that we will discuss. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Swamiji.